Hello, welcome to Agile Tour. My name is Thomas, and colleague Michael will be joining this presentation. We're both working in company Barclays, and our role we share the same, called Agile System Engineers, which is not that common for a big company to have a role like that. What we will try to do today is to have a presentation about our practices, which we try to adopt in our harsh and enterprise environment. So let's go and see who actually we are and how has it started from the very beginning. We've started our development department in Lithuania just 1.5 years ago. Mika and myself, we were first ones joining Barclays and starting the department. Until then, in our technology office, there was no development at all. So we started there, and besides our team, which was gathered as an agile-focused team with a startup company minded, so we could do agile projects within a big company like Barclays. So our team is dedicated to Agile, kind of spreading Agile through all the organization. Even though team was disassembled at some point after the project ended, we kind of spreading this disease virus all over the places where we can, just to challenge existing process, and not just to challenge it, but to change, applying some agile practices, make it better, and create better products. Our mission is constructed by some constraints, and what we have in big organization is distributed teams, as well as hundreds of professionals working there for like years and years. And we are, as in company, we are quite new, 1.5 years in this company. I wouldn't be able to describe the structure of it until now. So we will still need some time to be able to do any adjustments there. Also, some constraints because of kind of how big projects are. If you think about applications we are making, it's just internal applications. But when we think about the amount of people working and using this application, well, every day, it's quite a huge user base. So we should keep that in mind. While we are here, we will try to kind of share the experiences, as well as get ideas from this forum, which we could use in our daily base as well. So in this presentation, don't expect any rocket science or, some comparison between Kanban and Scrum and so on, and no fights between these technologies. Our goal is just to use agile practices which could be used within our constrained environments, and it doesn't matter which ones we choose. Is it Scrum or Kanban or whatever. So just a short plan of the presentation. What we will go through. Agile, let's agree on the terms. What we mean by agile, because it sounds everywhere. Agility, agile, but what does it mean? And have kind of common ground for the presentation. Then I will briefly describe the environment and the situation we are working in. What does affect the process, how it's constructed, and how we could possibly challenge. That's the third item. How we could possibly challenge it, because there are constraints we couldn't move anywhere because of the size, because of other factors we'll talk about. Then just do agile because to be agile doesn't make sense. What actually we're expecting from that, it's also important. Being Scrum just because you are Scrum Master and Scrum is good, we need some real examples here. Then we'll go through the real project case. We had a project which we tried various practices to apply, and so which one's working, which one's not. Planning for next intervention to the process, and questions and answers. But if in the case you have any questions, meanwhile, while talking, just pop in. Let's discuss it without, because you could just forget it at the end. Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, of course. So something about traditional process, because everyone's talking, I guess, about Agile here. And I'm aware that it's Agile tour. But let's briefly describe what that Waterfall traditional process is. It's a sequence of the task, linear. Do I pronounce it correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called linear. Oh, okay. So with clearly defined start, end, and dependencies. None of the iterations could start, not iterations, not on phases, could start without one before have finished. Well, we all know, so we take a demands, we analyze it until the end, until the tiny gritty detail. Then we develop it, well, sorry, design, develop, test, deploy, roll out, fine. So that's the definition of the process we have as traditional waterfall one. So we know we are talking about. Agile. Well, I didn't came up with these definitions. I just copied it. I thought it's cool, and so I couldn't came up with such a nice wording. But in general, what does it mean, agility? And these three items, I thought they describe what we're actually aiming for: is being able to proficiently to adapt our organization to the changes, to business changes, and make proper means software which actually is valuable. So here are the terms, and I won't go in details. These guys knows better, but yeah, that's the agility definition in my mind, and I guess since our team share the same. So it's a little bit different than previous slides. Let's say this waterfall. Why you could say why do we have that waterfall at all in big organization? Because if you look here, it's a little bit ambiguous. Being able, adopt, how adopt, being able, so in what term, and so on and so on. And waterfall is simple, straightforward, linear, so no problems. Everyone can understand that. Sure. So let's go. We have a common ground, understanding what we are talking about, terms. A little bit more about now about situation we have and in environment we are working in. Our user base or employees, more than, it's almost 150,000. Most of them, they are users, and they use applications not like when coming home and using when Facebook, whatever, but they are using that at least 7 hours a day. So most of these people are active users of the applications we are making. Not that many technical persons here, but about our department, as I said, it's quite new, which is also quite challenging to Agile, because you may probably heard here describing Scrum that one of the reasons for Scrum to be successful is to have as stable teams as possible. We can't afford that yet, because in this 1.5 year, almost, we've grown from 0 to 60 people. It's quite a steep curve. So we need to adapt to this distributed teams everywhere in all the locations. Gives also some challenge. If you take, again, theory of the Scrum, more distributed teams, more challenging it gets for Agile to work. So then again, varieties of projects, from small to big to huge to enormous. Legal procedures we are constrained by. We can't do whatever we want process. We need to follow some rules for some processes which are defined, well, tens of years. By legal, I mean authorities and law, which forces banks to do software the way they don't want to. But okay, of course you haven't heard. I guess you heard about some constraints, need to know constraints. Let's say this goes from people shouldn't know more than they need to know to do their work, and so on. So all this included, and all this kind of puts us in some boundary. We can't just say, okay, we'll be agile from from beginning to end, or Scrum, and no one would expect that.
The other thing we can mention here is the high conformance requirements. As we're saying here, it's that means that Barclays has a defined procedure of laws and rules. If we do analysis of requirements this way and put it on paper, and if we do design this way, put it on paper, it's all adapted very much to the waterfall process. So the internal Barclays process is defined along waterfall principles. So we have these constraints to work with.
Yeah, you're talking about this documentation, amount of documentation.
The documentation that we need to produce.
Yeah, and briefly, let's not stuck on this, our process. What was promised by this? So just to decide why the hell they are using that. Because it's said to be enforcing discipline. Why I'm going through these steps. Next slide, I'm going to try to challenge these, which ones we can, which are more like making most harm to like producing software we want. But they are which defined as advantages of the process. Enforce discipline because of the start-end dates. You know, when you have strict start-end dates, you are feeling safe. The same as for child to have boundaries. So they feel safe. They know, here I have started, here I must end. And everyone believes that it could happen. No waste of time because everything is set. Everyone knows what to do. If you are a designer, you do design. If you are a tester, you choose test. System doesn't slip because everything defined. Ensures that customer expectations are met. Of course, if business analysts did some analysis, they did it properly. And customer knows what he wants. All documented. Quality is better because it says that at every iteration end, not iteration, sorry, at every phase end. All documented, well-defined, tasks, perfect. So that was defined by the waterfall process, advantages of the waterfall process. Of course, it's a theoretical. What we have here, you know, every now and then we have changes in the requirements. Yes, of course. Why not? It happens all the time. And even taking a look at our process, if we have phases of requirements, then in design implementation, people who did requirements and he kind of slipped something, missed, they are gone to other projects and they can't remember or don't want to remember the project they were working before. Huge trade-offs on mistakes, and that could be the reason why big companies actually stuck in some old technology things, because if you are a designer and you are working in waterfall process, you are not likely to take initiative and introduce some new technologies in design phase. So at integration phase, guys would be, would we have a problem? So easy going, not doing anything to introduce any problems to levels before. So it's not likely to happen. It's not likely to happen that someone would be introducing something new, but we need something new in order to proceed. Integration phase, you wouldn't believe how complex this phase is. Then when everyone works, gets defined requirements, design, implementation, testing, and just drops it, okay. guys, please make it as a part of delivery and roll out to the public. And apparently, there are some mismatches between integration pieces of a component, some misalignments with the interfaces or data structures and so on. And way back is really, really not that easy. And what we see quite often, as long as these phases are quite long, while we are doing one iteration, we already get change requests for iteration we haven't yet released. So new changes and new change requests comes even faster than we able to release the system. So piling up. And all of these we challenge and we try to introduce practice, but there are ones which, in our case, we think we can't move, at least so far. Because, first of all, we are constrained by the amount of people involved in the process. Lots of teams everywhere doing all the bits of the system. So we can't influence all of them in one go, unless it would be a really small project. People habits, people working for a long time in the company, most of them, and they have habits which not that easy to change. As well as legacy codes, quite a lot of legacy code if you start up from backend and services, which old and can't be easily changed. People knowing that code, still knowing that code and still working, not willing to change anything. So upfront design is needed in order to integrate new parts with the old parts, with the legacy parts. And as I said, legal stuff. Some law to be followed, audit trails, and so on, which is enforced by institutions outside the company. This we couldn't find a way so far. Small team, how to change it. Here, what we came up before when we started our work on the project one year ago. What we must have is at least iterative deliveries. So what does it, so we would have control over the process, over the process itself, over the progress, as well as spot errors early in the process, not going to the last stage, as well as most important is having prioritization of the functionality we want to deliver. As I guess everyone knows this golden rule of 80-20, which is applied to all performance, code, and so on. It's said to be true for application as well, meaning that usually 20% of functionality is used 80% of the time. So if, let's say, project fails, it's better to do 30%, including these 20, I guess. So iterative, it makes sure that we have a chance to change the priorities of the items, and if we are going to fail at the end, we have right items in the delivery. So change requests, that also goes for iterative. We can re-estimate them and add to the backlog. Business involvement, which is not that often happening, but to have word from them what they actually want. Yeah, of course, there's the saying, I'll know what I want when I'll see it. So there is a shortening for that. But and at this stage, having iterative deliveries and business involvement, we had a chance to actually show what we mean by, do you want this? And oh yeah, cool. So continuous integration, which it's not yet in all the companies making software, but apparently, well, at least to how our team knows that it's a kind of vital thing to have in order to decrease amount of the problems in integration, component integration phase, or just meeting the requirements for the software quality as well. Flexibility in progress improving. If you take plain theoretical Scrum, as far as I remember, if something is changed in your current iteration, meaning ongoing sprint, as soon as it's changed, you need to drop it and make new backlog, reprioritize new items, and restarts iteration, which actually wasn't option for us because our team was building up, changing a lot, and new people joining, some of them going to other projects. So it wasn't an option. Communication between the teams, that was essential because we were small part of the Barclays community, one of the small teams. We need communication channels to be improved, and for that, we have some solutions which need to be chosen. Okay, and that's actually what we saw needs to be added to existing process within Barclays. Okay, how these are just points, and how we actually choose which one to use. It's not like Agile, and it's like silver bullet, or it's like magic and put a hat and bunnies here. So it doesn't work like that. We need to, in every case, we need to choose something from both from Kanban, from Lean, from Scrum, somewhere whichever would work in our case. So these are the items we were looking at. How large project is, how could be choice affected by the team size, requirements, stable, not stable. All of them, you know, from I guess from Agile theory, because it is said that if you have a lot of legacy code and you have pretty stable requirements, so Agile is actually not needed. Why would you need that? Because you are not waiting for any input from the customer. You know exactly what to do, and you are short, and you have short period for that. So we've chosen to use bits of practices from everywhere, as I said, and just treat it as like solution. We used several tools, mainly for evaluating them, but eventually sat down on some internal one. It's a Kanban board. We've chosen that to track the progress and to visualize our process. So, okay, let's go to the next slide, I guess. That's the case study, what we've chosen for solving the problems we're talking about, and what tools, how we shape the team, and so on. In the project, we had 3 distributed teams across the globe, so to say. India, UK, not India, Romania, UK, and Lithuania. That's kind of a little bit complicated our choice for the Scrum, because we didn't like the idea of having, Scrum of Scrums of Scrums of Scrums. So, I mean, small team, bigger Scrum, bigger Scrum, bigger Scrum. Instead, we've decided to have user stories and crews actually doing user stories. By user stories, we mean some bit of the functionality which is well defined. Let's say myself as a user with the system, I want to do and this, be able to save document in this format. That's the user story. Then we have crew, which takes this user story and drags it all over the Kanban board through all the steps. Main idea of this was influenced by last year. There was one presenter who did present this. It was single item flow idea. when only the crew only has one user story to work on at a given time. It doesn't drop because it's like defected and takes another one, and doesn't leave it in blocked and just, okay, let's wait for someone to do something, but use rather pull, not waiting for input from someone. Yes, we had business representatives assigned to our team. So not assigned, but having them on board just to be able to answer our questions, which was also good exercise for everyone to get into habit to actually not ask questions, but also propose solutions. Questions like how it should look like, it's most likely won't get answered unless you have, okay, we think it could be done like this. How do you think? So that approach was enforced with the while communicating with communicating representatives as well. As long as we had crews of people, like 2 developers, 1 QA. QA mostly doing pull job, meaning getting requirements from representative, creating acceptance tests, agreeing that with the business guys. So they did all this job, and testing developers just doing development and helping sometimes QA to do that. User story is finished only when all the tests and all the tasks are finished and are ready for delivery. I haven't got picture from our Kanban board. There were several stages, but one of them were for acceptance, ready for acceptance, where business representatives getting the piece of software for functionality implemented. Every time they can go into live build, which is because of continuous integration, we have and can verify that's actually exactly what they want. So when they are satisfied with the changed, stories moved into done or delivery queue, same lane or how it's called. So why we don't have roles? Why would we need one? If there are crews, they are working together, 2 developers, 1 tester. They are doing job. Okay, 1 developer is senior, 1 junior tester. Okay, fine. They are doing the same bit of functionality. For all the teams, there was 1 manager. Should we call it project manager?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So he just communicated with the business to do prioritization of the items. That's it. Then we take estimate that user stories by story points. We know the size, throughput, and we put it in the iteration, into backlog, release backlog. So that's how we structure the team. Then we've chosen some practices. Some of them I already described. Limiting amount of work in progress. That actually, I think that was the main good thing we've chosen. It's when there are lots of stories to do. If you pick one drop, and then it gets 5 in progress, and there are 2 teams. So who is doing what? And while enforcing single item flow, you make sure that things doesn't fall between chairs. And you don't, at the end of the iteration, as it could happen with Scrum, that you have developers, we are done, and testers, oops. Okay, and okay. So that's kind of give us some space and make sure that we are not stuck piling up work on people. Kanban board, so presentation and tracking. We used our own tool for that. Pulling requirements, as I said. Test-driven development practices, yes, of course. Test first thing. It's not that easy, but we try to do that. Continuous integration helped a lot while accepting user stories and pieces, user stories already delivered, available for the release. Peer programming, I was really skeptical about that one. I had bad experience before, but I mean, haven't got good experience before. But in this environment, it worked just well, just perfect. Because when people used to face problems like how to ask, should we do like this instead of how it should be done, two guys looking at the screen and solving the problem, it's solving problem or going for the proposal. It's really a good way to go. At least for us, it worked really good. Daily stand-ups from Scrums. Should we go? We had at least 2 of them. One internal, one between teams, and of course retrospectives, which is a natural thing to have if you want to improve something. Okay, so these were the practices. I guess I was a little bit too wide on the first slide, so sorry, I have to run a little bit faster here. So for our joy, we had good results of that. It's not that often, and our customers, which were users of the system, were happy with the functionality because that was exactly what they wanted. Got within schedule, within big schedule, even though inside we had some envelope type of managing. But within big schedule, we were on time. We had delivered more, got quality, no integration, no big integration problems, and team was having good time working in Cruise. It was really good communication and intense communication, knowing people, working with the people instead of just focusing on the task and seeing computers. And still, we managed to live within boundaries of the big organizations and survive in big process boundaries. Basically, the results were good. There were few items we were modifying on the fly, but in general, it worked fine. That's why we have a chance to go further. What we need to do, and we're looking forwards for ideas how to do that. We need ideas and practices how to spread agile practices to offshore development. Historically, there are lots of subcontractors working offshore in Barclays, so we need to think about how better to do that. Scaling strategies, lots of them. I mean, co-located teams, Scrum of Scrums, and so on. We need solution for that. Keep focus on feedback. Just continue to do that and convince big project managers to give resources from work environments we are making application for. And also, still there are quite a few challenges with the critically important parts of the system, where failure is not an option, and first scrums, so to say, first iterations, it's usually a failure, but there are cases when it's not an option for banking systems. You can't have working software but not accepted, legally approved, blah blah blah. So we need to solution for solving that bit. So that's basically it. If you have any questions or even suggestions how to cope with these.
Any questions for our presenters?
Was it that boring?
No, you have just run. I have one question about those retrospective and other stuff. How people like these things, like retrospective, and how open they are. How do you help, not just them? It would be interesting.
With the big companies, especially with the UK, there is so-called non-blaming culture, of course. It's hard. Well, you need some practice. Giving feedback in the form that you are not saying that you did wrong. But main problem in these in the retrospective meetings used to be that we used to have a sheets with fulfilled with bad things, what we need to improve, and almost empty sheet which named what was good.
He
And
solved his like.
that was quite interesting, and we had no problems people being open about that, as long as team was inside. In Lithuania was quite small. We were 9, 3 crews, and other ends were also quite open with that. It helped that we were working with offshore people from Romania, and they are more or less the same culturally as we are. It wasn't that problem at this stage.